So Jonathan Doyle. All right. Heck off commie guy. Got a new set. He fixed everything up. He moved into a new building. And the reason why I wanted to cover this video specifically is because it's called Top 5 Stupidest Baby Boomer Talking Points. Now, I myself, well, for one, I'm not a huge fan of generational psychology. I think it's a lot of bullshit, all that fun. That being aside, boomers can be annoying. I can get on board with that sentiment. So what I'm interested in is, one, whether we agree with the boomer sentiments or like them being an accurate representation of boomer thought. But then seeing like where we might like diverge on how to deal with those apparent sentiments. But then on top of that, I mean, it's John Doyle. He's going to say a lot of things. He's going to say them in rapid fire because he speaks really fast. And a lot of it's going to be offensive and probably not great. So I guess let that be your warning. This guy, I would not hesitate to call this guy a fascist. This dude, a total fascist. In fact, I don't know if it's this video, but he has supported Nick Fuentes, which most people consider to be an obvious fascist. So this is a fashy dude. A very fashy dude. So I guess brace yourself. Let's go.
I've been working on that two-part series about liberalism and Satanism and Christianity and conservatism, and I realized that there are some things that we need to touch on in the liberalism Satanism video that should probably be expanded upon beforehand, and I was already planning on making this video anyway, so I figured that it would be better to put a couple videos out this week which can kind of lay some of the foundation for what's going to be explored next week. And so today, we are going to go over the top 5 stupidest baby boomer talking points. We will explain the concept of the boomer, why we have an issue with them, but also why we love them, how these talking points have enabled the destruction of our country, and I'm sure that you're familiar with all of them, so do stay tuned.
So, I do want to acknowledge that apparently he's making a video that equates liberalism with Satanism, so that's fun. That is tons of fun. Tons of fun that's happening. Now, this is going to be an advertisement that utilizes memes, and it's all for their shirts, and it's not great. But like the shirts are really bad shirts. They're not good shirts. What did one of them say? Oh, well, let me. I at least want to get what the shirts look like here before we move on, because some of them are really ridiculous. Black person expert is what one of the shirts is. Okay, just so we get a sense in what's going on with the shirts that he's making. So just know there will be assholes walking around a city near you, wearing a black person expert t-shirt. That is going to happen now. So, you're welcome, universe. Like, I'm not misbehaving. I'm just schizophrenic. Please be understanding. Like, it's just so stupid. It is so childish, and like with the notion of like, oh, we're just going to trigger a bunch of liberals. We're just triggering all the liberals. That is what all these shirts are. And I do have to say, one of the shirts there just said "Science is gay." You know what a wonderful, wonderful human being. And then of course the introduction of this song. Every single time.
John Doyle in. Heck off, commie.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Heck Off Commie. Let us address the baby boomer question.
I don't know that he's a flat earther, but he doesn't believe in science. Let's just put it that way. Fash wave and then the intro with hired actors. I know. Well, the cosplay is cringe. The fash wave is cringe. Everything about it. It's cringe. Cringe till your heart's content. But, you know, I don't like the fact that YouTube platforms this guy. I don't like why is he still here yet Nick Fuentes is gone? Like, he should not be here. He should be gone. He should be buried forever. in a vault where no one gets to watch any of his content. He doesn't believe the Earth is round because science says it. Probably.
Let us first, though, remind the audience that the Discord server is back up on the website. So if you're a member, go to the website, join the boys once again. Also,
does it, Dom? Now I want to go back to watch that. Are you going to make me go back and watch something? Is it not there? Oh, no. You made me do it. Oh, no, I don't want to listen to that song again. Oh, my God. It says UAW. CIO. It's a union-based car. Oh, no. Oh, no. UAW needs to disavow. Elron, thank you for the resubscription. 8 months. Thank you very much. I'm sorry it's not making sounds. When this stream is done, I should write that down. That is weird that it's not doing the subs. That is super, super weird. I don't want to forget it, so I wrote it down. Analog style. Fix subs. Done. Hail Lord Xenu? Oh yeah, because Elrond. I get it. Yeah, union representation. Here we go.
John Doyle in. Heck off, commie.
My guess is it comes from the way the fascists try to co-opt workers' organizations and stuff like that. So I feel like it's probably coming from that, or it's the fact that it's an old car, and so maybe like he had to go through a union shop that had these cars on display to use it for this fucking video or something. I don't know. That's interesting.
hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Heck Off Commie. Let us address the baby boomer question. Let us first, though, remind the audience that the Discord server is back up on the website. So if you're
also calling it the baby boomer question. All right.
Remember, go to the website, join the boys once again. Also, look how much better the image looks. Is this not better? Are the angles not better? Are the lights not better? Our friend Kayla came over, got everything set up properly, so we appreciate that. We love Kayla, don't we, folks? Also, the new merch is going live on the website this weekend for the 3-year anniversary of the channel, so be ready for that. But anyways, yeah, some of us watching are baby boomers. Some of us have parents who are boomers, maybe even have grandparents who are boomers. And technically speaking, a baby boomer is someone who was born between the years 1945 and 1965. And ironically, the name of the generation, which is in reference to the post-World War II surge in babies that this country had because we were riding an unprecedented wave of prosperity and morale. Ironically, the name even references their greatest weakness, which is exactly that they grew up in the most prosperous and free period in the history of the country, probably even the history of the world, and they pissed it away. And I've said this before, they were too busy getting high and listening to Led Zeppelin 4 to actually push back against the forces which have ultimately overtaken our country. And let me
here's the thing is, I'm going to be like, I agree, but I know that I think that happened, but he's going to think that it happened in a different way, that I don't think it really did happen the way he thought it happened. You know what I mean? But yes, I do not agree, or I don't disagree with his assessment of the baby boomers. They pissed a lot of their resources away. They had it all go away. They squandered all that they had, left us in a really shitty situation, destroyed this earth. Thank you, baby boomers. Thank you very much. So yes, don't disagree with that assessment. But clearly he's going to think that somehow it turned the baby boomers left us leftism, which is stopping babies or something. I don't know.
Let me clarify. I don't think that my generation's better. I recognize that every generation's going to have its problems. We don't even know how to cook or fix household appliances, but at least we didn't fumble the greatest lead in civilizational history. I don't know. That's just my opinion. And if me and all the young people are arrogant, we think we know it all. We don't even know how to fix a toilet. Maybe you should have raised us better. I don't know. That's what always makes me laugh because they'll say, well,
I know how to cook and fix an appliance. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about, but raise better. But even the idea that somehow there's a civilizational standard that you could say what they attained was the great, like the pinnacle of civilization or something like that. That is such a silly way of even thinking about this. I don't even know how to do that calculus, you know? A civilizational calculus. He's coming from a position of resentment, whereas a fair materialist critique, dare I say Marxist, can be made without that resentment. Exactly. We all agree the baby boomers screwed up everything, but he thinks the issue is that they didn't do the Red Scare hard enough for long enough. Right? And frankly, they Red Scared the left into, sadly, the state it's in today.
Well, kids nowadays, they have to get a participation trophy for everything. What happened to earning things? Like, who do you think is buying the participation trophies for us, dude? Like, who's picking them up from the store? It's not us because we are 5. The point being that I know that not all baby boomers are like this. Truth be told, I actually really like baby boomers, and we're really going to miss them in a few decades, assuming that current trends continue. But that being said,
He said that with sincerity, but like, yes, everything alive today will eventually die. So why is he saying if trends continue? If trends continue. Yeah. Eventually the baby boomers will die because eventually time happens. Like, we're... God damn it. Oh. That is amazing. The state it's in today, which according to John Doyle is ascendant. We can thank the baby boomers for the current triumphs of leftism on the global scale. Because Starbucks sometimes has rainbow cups. Yeah, exactly. But yes, baby boomers will someday die. I'm sorry, any baby boomers who are listening, but that's just a fact of reality. If trends continue, 100% of vaccinated people will be dead within 150 years. You know what, 2 cars? You're probably right. You're probably right.
Given that it was that generation who ceded all institutional power to the communists, and it was that generation who was in power while the managed decline of our country was largely set into place, I do feel somewhat righteously indignant. But anyways, technically a boomer is someone who was born between 45 and 65, but I believe that it's more of a cultural thing. Like,
the communists took over. The baby boomers let the communists... You know, the baby boomers elected Ronald fucking Reagan, which was the communist takeover of the American government. Bet they didn't tell you that when you were vaccinated, that it won't make you immortal? What else are they hiding? Boomer is a mindset. I mean, that's pretty much what he's getting into right now. Now we're into the boomer is a mindset territory of this argument.
I know 60-year-old boomers and I know 30-year-old boomers, because that which defines the boomer is the inability to recognize that things have changed. That's what it is. And I mean no disrespect by that. Like, every generation is always going to have a point where they don't really understand what the younger generations are doing. But when we talk about baby boomers, like, that tends to be the implication, that you're dealing with someone who just doesn't get it. And that's why people my age are Zoomers, because we don't have time to not get it. So we got to move speedy quick, or else we're all going to end up in mass graves. And one of the greatest...
I've met some Zoomers with a boomer mindset, and you're not going to tell me otherwise. There's definitely some Zoomers out there that are just like, you want me to use what? Or like, just any, and you know what? Technologically inept people exist everywhere. I don't know why it always applies to technology. It always seems to apply to technology. People who can't use technology get joked about as being boomers. And so I'm just going to be called a boomer from now on forever. That's how it goes.
Examples of this recently. This was at a protest I attended last November. This was the day after the fortified election, and I went down to downtown Detroit where they were counting the ballots for legitimately elected President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr.
Do you think that counts as election fraud and should be removed from YouTube? If he goes, counting the ballots. Like, does it... I mean, I guess that won't get picked up by the algorithm, but like, he just like negated the concept of actually counting the ballots by putting the scare quotes, you know?
Some of you actually might even remember watching the live stream that I did at this event. We were in this crowd of people, most of them baby boomers, and there was this huge crowd of people across the street from us who were protesting our protest. And as you can imagine, in Detroit, this group of people were largely... That's right, they were largely Democrats. And so I'm watching these Democrats, and I'll never forget this because something like just clicked for me in this moment. Because there was this one...
This tells me as well that he went to one of the Stop the Steal events. He went to Detroit to protest the counting of the ballots. Because in the Detroit case, it was they were already ahead and they were telling him not to stop counting or something, or were they telling him to count Detroit? I can't remember. Or maybe it was to count in Detroit, because the idea was you needed to get it, that there was going to be these magical Trump votes that were going to like overtake it. Help me out here. How old is John Doyle? Do we know? Well, he said he's a Zoomer, so you can do the math there. Let's go, Brandon. Who's Brandon? Who's Brandon?
One particularly boisterous young Democrat woman who was screaming at us, and, you know, she started a series of chants that said, like, F white people, F America, F Donald Trump. And then one of the guys on our side, who was a baby boomer, he was dressed up as a founding father, tricorn hat and all. He got to the front of us and he turns around, he raises his hands, and then he begins to lead us in song. He wanted us all to sing God Bless America to drown these people out. And that's when it clicked. This guy meant well. He loves his country. He's probably a good man, but he just doesn't get it. And that explains why our country's collapsing, because you...
Okay, here's the interesting thing about this one. All right, I've been to a many protests. Okay, one example I can think of in particular is we were with a bunch of unions in Niagara Falls, and there was a conservative convention, and most of the people within the unions that could afford to take a day off to go drive to an event like this would be people who are like retired from their job but still involved in the union in some capacity. And they would come to these events to protest and stuff, right? But then it came to the fact that we're outside the conservative convention, and Doug Ford is doing a bunch of shit. And here we are just standing with our signs. Like me standing there, I'm like, let's do something. Let's do anything. And like, I was saying this out loud, right? And all I was advocating for things were like, maybe we should like obstruct the pathway so that like we can prevent some of the conservative leaders from getting into the venue. Like, that's not necessarily like breaking the law. That's just being an annoying asshole and like delaying their ability to have their conference, right? It's just like causing some kind of disruption. Minimal disruption. I'm not even asking, at that moment, I was not even asking for us to pick up rocks and start like smashing glass or some shit, right? Just minor annoyance. And of course, you had a bunch of the boomers in the crowd who were just like, who overheard me, were just like, oh no, we can't do that. So I sympathize with the kind of like liberal boomer attitude to not want to get your hands dirty in any capacity. The thing that worries me is for what the cause was, right? For the cause of what I was doing was in support of workers' rights, for the same reason that we had the unionized car at the beginning of his fucking video, which is like, I don't know, maybe workers should be paid better. Maybe our society is not doing so well because we have a corporatocracy that is like choking the life out of people, you know? Maybe we should fight back for workers' rights. Maybe that's a good thing to fight for. Yet he was at a protest to stop an election from happening because his fascist daddy was not being elected. So, yes, the boomer who's really annoying, who's dressed like a, you know, with the tricorner hat, singing God Bless America. Yeah, like really silly. I agree. But maybe I'm glad that that there's only a few Zoomers that support them. So that like the boomers could just take over and sing their fucking songs, you know? Jesus Christ.
You have people who think that the answer to I hate you because of your skin color, I hate your country, and we took over your entire country and are going to punish you beyond your worst expectations. And they think the answer to that is, let's sing patriotic songs. That'll change their mind. Do you think they're confused when they say that they hate you and that they hate America? They really mean that. You're not going to sway them with a folk song. Oh. And then at that point, I just said, screw it. I'm going to use actual tactics against these people because songs.
We'll get to the tactics in a second, but like even here, I'm going to put the glasses away for a little bit, let my eyes readjust. But even here, I kind of agree with him. Just in terms of like tactical disputes. I've been to a lot of protests where all we're doing is like holding hands and singing Kumbaya, and sometimes that gets really frustrating because Are the people we're opposing going to get the message? Probably not. It might look good for like our Instagrams or whatever the people are posting, be like, look, we took a stand, but are we really accomplishing anything? We're just walking around. So it's like, I fully sympathize with that. But again, that's all dependent on what the cause is. Let's see what his tactics were that he wanted to use here.
Isn't working, so I decided to capitalize on low impulse control, a known Democrat weakness, to see if I could get some of them arrested. So I had my megaphone and I just started broadcasting to that particularly boisterous Democrat woman stuff like, hey, are you from Little Caesars? Because you're hot and I'm ready. And right on cue, she starts crossing the street screaming at me. The police see this. They start calling after her. The plan's coming together. And then from left field, this Asian girl comes up to me and the boys, and she gets right in our face and she's like, you guys are being so disrespectful and rude to her. I'm on your side, but this is so immature. And then it clicked again. Then I try to pull this epic prank to get this woman arrested by simply complimenting her with a reference to a Michigan-based pizza franchise. This woman who was literally chanting, F white people, I hate you, come over here so we can beat your ass. Now I have this little Asian feminist telling me that I'm the problem. And say what you will about conservative women, but if you as a woman approach a man like this and get in his face, that's internalized feminism, whether you realize it or not. Women shouldn't ever approach a man like that. Frankly, if you do, you should expect to be treated like a man. Let's do that actually right now. You want to know the correct take on hitting women? Here.
That's right. His take on this was to troll the left in order to evoke a police response. So he's thinking in his head, I mean, this is already fucked up, because he's thinking in his head, I don't personally want to injure these people. I want to get the police to do the injuring for me, and I want to trigger them to incite an incident so that they get injured by the police. And then one of the people on his own side just starts to engage with him. And then he wants to move it to the discourse of when is it okay to hit a woman? Like, this is on YouTube. I watched this and I'm just like, he's going to now discourse about when it is appropriate to hit a woman. Meanwhile, he's out there like promoting the idea that they should just prevent an election from occurring. And then also promoting the idea that you can sort of manipulate the police to go like assault your enemies. Fuck this guy. Fuck this guy a lot.
Here it is. The whole idea behind not hitting women, as a general rule, everybody knows, you know, women are your mothers, they're your sisters, they're these vivacious, feminine, nurturing beings. We have to protect them because of that, right? It's not because they're physically weak. That's what everybody thinks, but that's not why. There are plenty of physically weak men that no one would have a problem with hitting. And I think about this because I saw a clip from an anti-jab mandate protest last weekend, headlined by Nick Fuentes, where this woman got right up in this.
So, I only wanted to pause there just to note that this is someone who peruses both Baked Alaska and Nick Fuentes, known white nationalist neo-Nazis, both of which have been banned from YouTube. And John Doyle is promoting and watching their content. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful? And yet, this is still allowed on YouTube. I am not sure why it's allowed on YouTube. It violates all their terms of service. And I would recommend, go top 5 stupidest baby boomer talking points. Go report this video. Report him. Fuck John Doyle. But yes, we're going to hear more of this story.
Guy's face and started yelling at him because he made like a joke or something. And I just rolled my eyes at this because it's like, yeah, okay, girl boss, you're not tough. The only reason that you're doing that is because you know that you can operate with total impunity because you're a woman. For the most part, no man would ever just get up in another man's face like that unless there was really a problem, because he knows that the threat of violence is always on the table. And the worst part, not this crowd, but the average crowd, if this guy had even pushed back at this woman, like just pushed her back, you would have heard all the white knights fall into place. How dare you put your hands on a woman? Don't you ever touch a girl. Okay, well, if you want the benefits and protections of being a woman, then you have to behave like a woman. Those are the rules. If you start behaving like a man, you will
like, I mean, you got to understand the sort of like gender essentializing that's going on here. But like, all of this is fucking bullshit. Like, it's amazing to me because he even talks about like what constitutes being a woman and what constitutes being a man. Yet he's already sort of broken down in this like weird fucking roundabout argument that there's men who are like women like and like don't get like or like they still would treat them as if they're men, even though they're not acting like men. And like, you know what I mean? Like there's degrees to manliness that, and yet he still comes to an essentialized position. Like it is so stupid and yet dangerous. Fucking dangerous. He's promoting the idea of like when it is acceptable to just beat the shit out of people, as if this is a reasonable point of discourse. I will tell you, like there is like maybe a modicum of a discourse to be had in terms of when it's appropriate to like hit someone, and it's when they're a fascist piece of shit.
Be treated like a man. And this is off topic, but it's tied to the broader point of what feminism has done to this country in just 100 years. We're going to touch on that a little bit more in a second. But when you pretend that men and women are equal, which is not the case, you necessarily have to give women power over men to achieve the desired equal outcome. So now women are free to get in your face. They can scream at you. They can push you. But if you even raise your voice to them, they'll cry and file domestic violence charges against you. It is literally given women a license to operate with total impunity and total advantage in every aspect of life, whether it's the courts, the workplace, universities, everywhere.
So now that you got the incel vibe of it too, you know, that like women are just like winning all these cases and paternity cases and in court cases about domestic abuse, and like men are the victims. All the men are the victims, even though they're strong and powerful and like, yes. I'm amazed but not surprised this is a show. Yes. And yes, it is the Jordan Peterson. How am I supposed to react to all this female insanity? I mean, here's the thing, don't be a fucking dick. You know? Doyle would punch a Nazi and racist. I'm 2 seconds away from blocking you, Planet TX, if you're someone who I think you are, but Doyle is a Nazi. I hate to break it to you. And as this video goes on, that is going to become steadily clear. It is literally always the men with the most punchable faces who benefit from the civility of polite society who do this shit. Yeah, exactly.
But they still get to retain their status as the eternal victims because of weak men with mommy issues who think white knighting will get them laid. Think about that. We live in a society that has artificially elevated women to such a pedestal that most men don't even realize the conditioning. And then when a guy like me comes out, when a guy like me speaks honestly about women, they short circuit. What? This guy's not simping? Well, he needs to get laid. He's an incel. And it's pathetic because they can only conceptualize existence as a man in terms of getting access to women's bodies.
So I do believe that there are men out there that exist that think of women purely as a sex object, but it tends to be conservative men that are pretty fucked up. I mean, like, you notice as well that my accusation of an incel did not come from the simping aspect of all this, but the bullshit surrounding like custody court stuff, which usually is like when, especially like the MGTOW movement and all these people, usually happens around the, you know, custody stuff. And it's usually often because the men are shitty men and they have their kids taken away, and then the only like recourse they have is to endlessly complain on YouTube or Reddit or whatever platform is willing to host them so they can build their toxic fucking communities. Doyle is totally jokified. 100%. 100%. I mean, I don't think John's going to log off, Muta, but that's why YouTube, which has a terms of service, should follow through on their terms of service and remove this shit from their platform. Just saying.
Their existence as men is derived and validated from the approval of women, a complete inversion of how things should be, and they can't even grasp the idea of not being locked into that framework. Oh, well, you said something mean about women? You must be an incel. Yeah, okay, hope she sees it, bro. Hope she sees that. Hope she gives you a crumb. You need to get laid. You need to go to church. We're off topic. There were 2 clicks for me in that story. We had the tricorn hat boomer and the MAGA waifu, who's actually a really sweet girl. I don't mean to put her on the spot, but understand my mindset at the time, just watching all of this happen around me. We had the 2 clicks. We went click, click, and then I blew my head off in Tetris. And even now, I'm going to get...
Like, it's even like the edgy like meme humor that's like released. I blew my head off in Tetris. All because of this weird fucking like roundabout story of the fact of like describing boomers and their boomer energy and then gets on this like tirade about like essentializing and categorizing a bunch of women and how they behave. And it's all for what? All for what purpose? Like, none of this shit that he's talking about, the whole like simping for women, all of this stuff, none of it like ultimately matters for anything. Like in terms of like we over here are not the ones saying that the pinnacle of male existence or the pinnacle of human existence is to get a mate and have this like this and this, and that's what makes a human being fully human, and that's what we need to strive and attain. They're setting these standards. They're the ones like putting in place like what these essential categories are. And then, of course, because of that, they have to rigorously enforce them and get really aggressive about it. It's like, why do we need to do that? Just chill the fuck out. Just smoke a little bit of pot, relax, and read some poetry. And ideally non-fascist poetry. And just chill the fuck out, bro. Just chill the fuck out. Okay? Not everything is about getting the girl, and not everything is about like fitting into your proper roles, whatever the fuck those are. Just relax, have a good time. Then you wouldn't have to like consider blowing your brains out, because guess what? None of this shit matters. None of this shit matters. Okay? Like, think about how easier your life will be if you didn't have to like worry or concern yourself with all of these arbitrary norms that you hold as baggage. I think the cringiest thing about Doyle is that his comedic presentation largely depends on framing rhetorical asides that clash with each other, but he's quite bad at it. I could imagine agreeing with all of his views, but still struggling to enjoy it. I think if you watch a lot of like younger YouTube, it feels like this. And that's like the other part that's like at least somewhat concerning to me, is that it's clear to me that he's appealing to a younger demographic with his kind of like presentation style. And so I hope people aren't coming in because they're at least drawn in by the affectation, and then over time find the arguments more convincing than they should be. Hence why I do this, and hopefully one day we'll come into the search result and they can watch this and realize that you can let all this baggage go and live a perfectly normal life, and then not become a fascist douchebag like this asshole.
Get people who are like, John, I usually agree with you, but you should never put your hands on a girl. Yeah, frankly, that rule is outdated and stupid. Women don't act like women anymore. And if I saw a woman get in a guy's face, screaming at him, pushing him, hitting him, and he like pushed her away from him, maybe even did a little bit more, maybe did a little Sean Connery mode, I can't say I'm going to pretend that he's somehow less of a man for that. Like, yeah, being a real man is letting a woman abuse you in public. In fact, I'd probably buy him a beer. And again, obviously, women should be protected. My point is simply that they can't have their...
Like, look at the weird thing he's trying to, like, navigate here that I don't have to deal with. Like, of course, like, in my mind, if, like, someone was attacking another human being, I also might want to step in there and try to ameliorate the situation, even if the aggressor in that circumstance might be someone who identifies as a woman. That might be something I want to intervene with. But he's making it about, like, to what extent this costs the man his manliness in this situation. Which, like, why does that matter? I think it would be even worthwhile to intervene if it was another woman attacking another woman, or a man attacking a woman, or a non-binary person attacking a man, or a non-binary person attacking another non-binary person. Like, maybe people shouldn't be attacking other people unless the people they're attacking are fascists. Oh no, turns out I'm the boomer because blunt asides that shift perspective too quickly and step on each other aren't funny. The young people love it when you say self-defeating contradictory things with an incongruous level of confidence. I mean, that's the thing, is like the one I just pointed out, like the contradictory things happen so fast. So fast.
Their cake and eat it too. That is all. But anyways, we get back to baby boomers. Obviously, hindsight's 2020, but had they really put up a fight against the internal threats that this country was facing, we wouldn't be in this position. And I really think that that's what's going on with their patriotism, with their patriotic songs, all of that. I really think it's a mixture of not realizing that the country they grew up in is long gone and that it will be a miracle if we can get it back, and also like a coping mechanism for maybe subconsciously realizing that and just trying to drown it out with the over-the-top patriotism for patriotism's sake. Like, I'm I'm patriotic. I love America, but not in its current form. And people don't understand that. Like, I criticize America in its current form, and people think I'm anti-American, that I'm giving up on America. And it's like, aren't you guys the same people who make fun of the body positivity movement and say like, well, we shouldn't be promoting unhealthy lifestyles and unhealthy choices? Aren't you the ones who say, well, you need to pull yourselves up by your bootstraps and take responsibility? If you have a family member who's a heroin addict, you probably wouldn't spend all your time talking about how great they are and how, in a way, the heroin addiction is actually what makes them great because it was their choice to become a heroin addict or something. No, the point being that if you love something, you have to hate that which threatens it. And if you
So his examples here are really shit. There is a tinge, a small sliver of this I kind of agree with, which is the idea of like criticizing something doesn't necessarily mean that you hate the something. It's maybe to improve it, right? I mean, the nugget of that is in there, and like that is a somewhat agreeable sentiment that you're not going to get much objection from me. I mean, his examples were shit. You know, getting into heroin and choice and drug addiction and all this shit. It's like let people be who they are and eat what they want and all this shit. Like, I don't really care, John Doyle. Like, go fuck yourself. But like, there's also like a notion, like, it's, you notice how like he put it into this framing as well, which is that his concern for what the boomers are thinking is that the boomers have reached like some sort of pinnacle where they believe the country still is what they imagined it to be in their like past, right? And you can also like see like this is the sort of like nostalgic yearning to like some imagined better time, you know, the golden years, where most people should know that even like what they imagine they think they want isn't good. I mean, that is why the boomers are wrong. But John Doyle takes that and say it's not that John Doyle wants to go back to that imagined past, which I must say, going back to an imaginary past is kind of fashy. Kind of fashy. You know, I'm not saying that fits every sort of like fascist movement or fascist organization, but you look at a lot of fascist organizations that exist, they want to go back to a time in which things were the imaginary perfection that they all believed that it used to be before things got deconstructed and it becomes degenerated, right? I mean, there's also the notion as well that you notice that like Doyle still in like all of this still thinks like he's still patriotic and still loves America, and it's like, fuck America. Fuck Canada, fuck like these nation states. Like, holding on to that garbage is so silly as well. But you can tell like it's like seeing something that's like correct in how boomers respond to people who criticize America. Like, that aspect is correct, but then he takes the opposite reaction, which is rather than going, no, it's still good to criticize America because fuck America, and also your imaginary past is bullshit and we shouldn't try to strive for it anyways. And yet he's going, you know, I love America. Criticizing it is good because we've degenerated from the pinnacle of what we should go back to try to obtain. And that's bullshit. Suggesting that America can be better means you hate America. Make America great again. No, you're right. That is the... Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people like to claim that Trump was not fascist. And my sentiment is, did he need to be a successful person to be fascist? Like, he largely failed at creating a fascist dictatorship. But he was also a complete moron. In a lot of ways. Like, I think he has some sort of like skills. They're just not necessarily skills that would lend themselves to achieving a fascist dictatorship. I think he definitely had some fascist ideas. 100%. I think a lot of the things he enacted were definitely fascist-ish. So I don't mind. And again, the whole MAGA movement, the MAGA concept is an appeal to an imaginary path. So there you go.
You want to solve a problem, you have to identify it correctly. And I love America, and I hate the problems with it. And that's my life goal, to make those problems disappear as best I can. A lot of people just want to wave American flags and sing songs and pretend that everything's fine because it makes them personally feel better. But I actually take this very seriously, and I'm not going to apologize for that. So we will now get into the list You know, my friend Blake said something one time that made me laugh. He said, it's not a hawk video unless the list doesn't start until 10 minutes in. And it's so true. We just have a lot to say. Had to tell some stories, had to talk about hitting women. Lots on the docket today. But before we get into the list, have you noticed that it's getting crazier out there? Yes?
Okay, we'll skip his advertisement. We don't need to advertise his gun holsters on his fucking show. Whoop.
Baby boomers. But again, anybody who says the not a perfect fit, send it back, full refund. WeThePeopleHolsters.com/Doyle. WeThePeopleHolsters.com/Doyle. Very epic. Anyways, let's get into the list. These are things that I've heard a lot from Orthodox baby boomers. But again, anybody who says these things, I would argue, is a cultural or a spiritual boomer. So here we go.
Cultural or spiritual boomer. That gets, I think it was it you, Nom, that called it the boomer mindset, or was that Two Cars? I can't remember. But yeah, it was Two Cars. The boomer mindset. Yes, this is it. The thing I always struggle to imagine when watching John Doyle is how would he actually function in a conversation? Like if someone was there to challenge him, just nudge him for clarity on any of these embarrassingly contradictory things he says, what would he say? How would he try to dodge it? He would just talk really fast. I think that's what he would do. I mean, that's clearly his shtick, is talking really fast. And triggering. He'll probably just, do the thing like, what, are you annoyed? Are you annoyed right now? Are you being annoyed? Are you annoyed? Just like he would get on a megaphone and tell someone that they're hot and ready. Which I didn't mention before, but that's harassment. So it's like, okay, you want to harass people. That's cool, bud. I hope Lance does a debate with Doyle. I do not. Jesus Christ, no. Lance, no offense to Lance. Don't debate fascist people, please. Doesn't he even do the full Crowder by wearing the holsters while sitting in his studio? No, but he advertises gun holsters at the very least. Lance would be wide-eyed and helpless the entire time. You're not wrong. You are not wrong.
Number one, they're trying to divide us. They're trying to divide us by race and religion and gender and all these other things. I do agree with that, but the implication of it is not true. The implication of it is basically that the people in charge...
You can't see it, but like behind my head, the number one says, listen to me, damn it. Couldn't you say that about like every generation? Like this just seems like a really loose connective thread here. Listen to me, damn it, as the topic. And especially, like, I'm not even sure how it ties into what he's saying right now, but I'll let him continue.
Of these things are sowing divisions between people based on all these different things. And if we could only realize it and come together united, we'd be able to take control again. The problem with this is just a misunderstanding of the cause of that division. The line of thinking tends to suggest that this division is being manufactured rather than being exploited, which is what's actually happening. Because if you know anything about history, you know anything about human nature, about in-group preference, etc., you know that these divisions between people are inevitable, like literally unavoidable. There's never been a successful multiracial, multi-ethnic, multicultural society operating under a liberal framework in the history of the world. Like, we are experimenting with it right now. You tell me how you think it's going. I don't know. But
so, like, when he's saying this, again, my brain is going, there's some truth to it, There's like an element of, like, when I was doing the research before for my honors thesis about right-wing authoritarianism, there's some evidence that suggests that there's just going to be like a baseline of like 20 to 30% of a population that is going to be authoritarian in some capacity. And it's not clear whether that can be like removed from some sort of like environmental thing, like re-education or something. I mean, again, we haven't run like the a million simulations to know if that's ever possible or not possible or like whatever, right? So I'm not suggesting there's some sort of innate thing. Like, for example, and a lot of it could be like contextual. So like, well, I think I've said this on stream before, like there was some evidence that suggests people with a heightened startle reflex are more likely to be conservative. Now, that doesn't mean that there's some like genetic component to conservatism, right? The idea is just like people who have a startle reflex, a heightened one, are more likely to be conservative. So it's not just that they have the startle reflex, but other things happen in their lives that push them into conservatism. It just happens to be the case that people with that startle reflex more likely end up being conservatives. Interesting fact. So it might be hard to remove a lot of these people. Divisions might exist forever, and it might not be something that we can just like, in some capacity, homogenize society to think better. C'est la vie. But his go-to was race, right out of the fucking gates. That somehow the issue is nothing that I just brought up there, that there's differences that are completely unrelated to race that has to deal with the fact of why some people become one way and some people become another. And yet he wants to say that it all boils down to race. And the evidence of societies not getting along is that there's been no evidence of like a diverse society that has persisted. And the weird thing there is, like, we have not reached the end of time. We do not know if currently these systems will exist for how long and for how well. Right? We don't know if they're going to last for the next 100 millions of years, or if this project of liberal democracy is going to end tomorrow. And granted, I'm one of these people who might like to see it end so that we can try something better, okay? But let's say we don't know how long this is going to persist. And we don't know like how well it would be, like if it's going to remain as consistently bad as it is right now, or if it's going to get right, like, you see what I'm saying? And so for him to say that, and here's the thing is, we've never had a racially homogenous society on Earth. There's always been diversity. Like, so it's like, how do you even, like, I don't even know what the fuck he's talking about here, or how you would measure this to know that, like, I have an example of here's an example of a place that is not racially diverse and they failed completely or something. Like, I don't even know how you would anthropologically or sociologically study what the fuck he's talking about. Because it's nonsense. It does not make any sense. I study exactly this, and he's hilariously wrong on the details. The fact that authoritarian and parochial biases reliably exist says nothing about how well they express and practice, or their likelihood of being dominant or relevant in any meaningful group organization. Like a lot of bad social tendencies, it's a context-specific problem that can be, and to varying degrees has to be, worked with on a cultural level. No, exactly. No, but you see, all he has to do is have a YouTube show, Tim, and say that it's about race. And you there with your degree, you're clearly wrong. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun, everyone? Aren't we having a good time? I mean, in a way, like, there's levels of, like, the similarity of, like, anti-vax shit, but for psychology and sociology, right? They just get to lie about the sociological and psychological evidence and just make up a bunch of shit. I know conservatives like bringing up Japan, except that they do not know of the Ainu northern indigenous people or the, I'm butchering these, obviously, Ryukyuans of the south base in Okinawa. Two cars. I don't like this person. I don't like him either. But, like, again, I am on a crusade to get him banished off of YouTube for promoting this shit. Well, science is gay. That's true, Tim. You're right. I didn't even think about considering that. And I did start this whole thing distracted by his not speaking face. So I think Doyle has owned me on this. Except that they do not know. Right. No, I mean, like, that's the thing, Nom. That, like, they don't understand this stuff. I mean, the other example of the go-to one is of a successful homogenized thing is they are ethno-state is Israel, right? And I don't know, you tell me, is Israel going well? Is that the pinnacle? Your YouTube clip of this will be reported and removed for hate speech. Well, we'll find out. YouTube.
This gets back into the well-meaning patriot who wishes so badly that everyone in the world would just come together under the American flag and sing the songs and love his country just as much as he does and be just as American as him. But unfortunately, that's just not the way that these things work. I wish it were, but it isn't. These immigrants are not coming here and reading the Federalist Papers and
again, like, think about this. I agree. Like, that first half of that, like, sentence, I 100% agree with. There's a group of people, liberal people, that all just want to sit around and sing Kumbaya and think everything's going to get better. 100% agree with you, John Doyle. And then you somehow take that to make it about immigrants. As if immigrants can't read the Federalist Papers. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Jesus Christ.
voting to preserve the foundations of this country. Lots of them do, true, but the vast majority are not doing that. The vast majority just view America as an economic opportunity, which I guess they feel entitled to, since Americans decided that temporary, incessant displays of patriotism from third world immigrants to satisfy their egos was worth like our national identity and purpose being reduced to a glorified casino. And
or maybe it's the fact that your country bombs the shit out of everywhere, or puts sanctions on them and creates poverty, or he doesn't even put sanctions but uses like the IMF to like screw over people economically. Doyle, like, god damn it. And to make it about like some sort of like what cultural thing, as if like what's his idea here is that somehow immigrants are coming over here, and then they have the sense of entitlement, and that they're not here because they care, and that somehow them not caring about America is what's going to cause the collapse of America, and we have to be worried about that because America is worth saving. Why? Why, Doyle? Because frankly, like, I mean, you could. There's a lot of Canadian fascists that say the same shit, and my answer is I want Canada to go away. Oh no, and I didn't even immigrate here. Oh no. It's so passionate, I can't stand it. I know. Oh my god. It's good when America screws over other people. That's just exerting rightful dominance, being an alpha country. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Passive-aggressive fascism is someone so much less pleasant to listen to than podium-thumping earnestness. Yeah. I agree, Tim. I agree. Don't worry, he usually gets even better. We'll see. We'll see.
And they vote based on their group identity to achieve as much power for it as possible. So that's the reality. So it's not that the people in charge are creating this division by fanning the flames in the media, it's that they are exploiting the division that they created, that they knew was an inexorable consequence of importing tens of millions of people from the third world into this country over the course of the last 60 years. That's the correct take. The take isn't, they're trying to divide us by these things. We must unite. What are you, John Lennon? You think that that would be winning? There is nothing that the ruling class would like more than a population of people with no culture, no national identity, no religion, no anything. Just a peasant class of perpetual consumers. And that's why they've stripped all that away from you in the first place.
So what? So I can name many divisions that have absolutely nothing to do with race. Or let's just say that the two parties are of the same race. Right? The Civil War, I mean, there was black people on both sides of this dispute, and like I'm not saying that the black people that were fighting for the Confederacy were doing so of their own free will, you know? My point is, those were two white parties that were divided over the nature of what to do with black people, whether or not they should be kept as property or not. And they were divided over that and ended up fighting a bloody civil war. Now, I happen to think that one of those sides is right, the other's wrong, and maybe that's a good division because, like, hell, fuck people that think slavery is okay. But that didn't have anything to do with, like, the immigrants coming over and changing the culture. That had to do with a difference of culture between the same race of people. One group of people that thought that racism and bigotry is not great. Well, I wouldn't even go that far. Of course, we're dealing with the 1800s. But, you know, owning of people, not great. You know, the least we could say is that they thought that. Owning people, not great. Cool. Like, what? Like, why? Like, it's so amazing to me that, like that his brain, and it's, of course, it's like, it's only of the present moment. It has no, like, historical understanding. It's just this idea that in the present moment, conservatives and the fascist right wing of America are talking about immigration and how that's going to be the destabilizing effect of Western democracies and going to make America crumble. And it's going to work so fast and effective that we need to steal elections in order to prevent it from happening. Meanwhile, like, over half the country that is of the same race as this asshole thinks he's a fucking idiot. It's incredible. Incredible.
But anyways, we continue. Number 2, who are you to enforce your morality on others? John Doyle's just like a leftist. If you don't agree with his morality, he says you're a bad person. Yes, that is correct. But the difference...
So notice as well, so the number 2 here, it says debased and hell-pilled. Debased and hell-pilled. This is the point that I'm always making too about morality, which is like there are right and wrong answers to things, and it annoys me when like uber centrists come in here with their sort of like, let's hear both sides, and you're just being too aggressive, or whatever fucking centristy like speak they have to this, right? So in that respects, I feel the sentiment. People who do that piss me off too. But then like whatever moral position he's going to adopt on the other side of that, I do not agree with. At all. I'm caught in a catch-22 here. Everything John Doyle says is so repulsive, he's eroding my ability to be attracted to men. But if I lose my innate gayness, I can no longer do science, and I'll lose my job. He has checkmated me. I don't know. That's an Ouroboros going on right there, Tim. Good luck.
Difference is that I'm right and they're wrong. And I get that you've been conditioned by decades of liberal propaganda to reject the ideas of right and wrong and to believe that everything is relative. But I think that we've seen the results of that experiment, and they suggest that it's time to go back to how things used to be. So yeah, not only is there right from wrong, and not only do we know right from wrong, but we have an obligation to use our power, whether that's our voices or laws, to promote good in society. Well, I don't believe it's the government's job to compel individual behavior, really?
So, again, like... I agree with the sentiment, but like, of course, John spells it out there where it's like his idea is not that we can improve society and make it better. He thinks that it was better in the past and we need to go back to it. It's the same fucking thing.
Basically, every law that exists does exactly that. Speed limits, which I unironically think should be abolished, or at least we should have some sort of like system where you can buy like a pass or maybe like $1,000 a year that lets you drive however you want to, however fast you want to, I should say.
What? God damn it! What? Just to abolish the speed limit and just have people pay to drive as fast as they want to drive? Like, what the fuck is he going on about? And why? This take is completely irrelevant to anything that he's saying. He's just like, fuck it. Abolish speed limits. Let's just have complete and utter chaos that could possibly cause injury and death. Yet he's on the side of good. This man is incoherent. This man is dangerous. Dangerous.
But speed limits do that. Murder laws, sexual assault laws, they all compel individual behavior. So the question becomes, where do you draw the line? If you don't trust yourself to know right from wrong and to advocate for right and against wrong, then how can you support laws against murder or rape or anything, really? And if your answer to that is anarchy, then you're no different than a socialist because you're fixated on these impractical utopian ideas. The bottom line is that this
What, you're a socialist? I mean, the funny thing is like most of the socialists I know of are like in favor of vaccines and making sure that people get vaccinated. So, and like aware that like coercive structures might be okay to coercive in a very loose sense in that they motivate people to get the vaccine opposed to not getting the vaccine, right? No one is against some kind of structure. It's just how that structure represents and what that structure is imposed to do, right? Which is it, John? Are liberals more relativists, or are they morality police, insisting everyone needs to respect their cultural standards? It's almost like you're conflating at least two groups, left progressives and centrist liberals, and inconsistently assume whatever posture to you think your own horrible views compare well to. Yeah. It's a mess, is what it is. It's just like it's amazing. This is the thing that worries me about John. Is the extent to which there's like nuggets in which he's like getting close to like a somewhat reasonable response, but then it's like, yeah, okay, so like some of the things you're saying here make sense. Yes, laws are supposed to compel behavior. So like this idea that there shouldn't be no compelling at all, it's kind of silly. Yes, I hear you. But then it's like, okay, John, well, tell us like why certain ways of compelling people are better than others. Like, you don't. Well, I mean, he gets into the detail, or like why in the traffic example? Why is it okay to compel people not to murder each other, but it's not okay to impel them to drive this, or like compel them to drive the speed limit? I don't know. I feel like compelling people not to drive the speed limit is good. It's going to reduce deaths overall. I don't know. That's fucking weird.
Country and everything about it that you love so much was built upon Christianity. That's the fact of the matter. You might not like it, but it's nonetheless true. The reason you have God-given rights is because of that. The reason this country isn't as lost as Australia right now is because of that. How
Tim. Tim. Did you hear that? Apparently Australia doesn't have Christianity. Is this true, Tim? Tim, how's your country doing? Oh, I freezed it at a very great spot here. Shout out to me. I have to say, this is one, not true. In fact, our God-given rights go all the way back to King Hammurabi. We've already been over that on the stream once or twice. But anyone who wants to say that their God-given rights come from Christianity, they're wrong. Give that credit to Hammurabi. Okay? But other places have rights, or what their own idea of rights are, based on their own religious or non-religious edicts. So I don't know, whatever, bro. And the other thing is like, why would Christianity just be better than all the other ones? Why is that the correct one, John? Just because you happen to pop out of a vagina that also happen to be Christian? Like, this is what we have? No, we're really ruled by insular group of white Catholics. They're called rights and not left. Well said, two cars. Jesus Christ.
How can you talk about your rights as an American that you only have because of God while rejecting the concept of objective morality which exists through God? The only reason people don't like this is because they get whiny.
So again, I don't even know if I want to break out to the objective morality shit and have that, like, on all that shit. Don't need to get into that. But, and also it being tied to God. I mean, I know tons of people who believe in objective morality but are atheists, and I know many atheists that don't believe in objective morality. And being a denier of objective morality doesn't even mean that you're a moral relativist and all that fun stuff. So clearly John Doyle has not spent any time dealing with moral philosophy like I have when I wasted a ton of money on a degree I didn't get. Or at least I guess I still have the master's in philosophy, so I can't even say that I didn't get a degree in it. That being said, the whole thing about rights is just so silly. The whole discussion about it. It's like let me hear that.
While rejecting the concept of objective morality which exists through God. The only reason people don't like this is because they get whiny.
No, I want to
Australia right now is because of that. How can you talk about your rights as an American that you only have because of God while rejecting the concept of objective morality which exists?
I mean, the American Constitution and Bill of Rights and all this fun stuff was written by deists. I mean, that should be an obvious thing. And like they did say, we hold these truths to be self-evident. You know, they aren't self-evident. I mean, a lot of like gobbledygook came out of the founding fathers. I mean, it's, you know, we had to think. I mean, was it self-evident that owning people was completely okay, or maybe they fucked up on that one and had to change course? You know, it's like maybe we learn things over time and we adapt and change, and maybe that's good instead of like worshiping some ideal past that never existed. Does God endorse baiting people into violence? just all of this is just stupid. And if God gives you objective morality, why is there like 8 billion Christian sects in America that all argue that they have the right interpretation and all of them think that the other people are immoral? So why don't you work it out amongst yourselves before you decide which Christianity is the one that takes the top, okay?
Exists through God. The only reason people don't like this is because they get whiny. They get whiny when you highlight their immoral behavior. Call me out of touch, call me a Puritan, which, by the way, isn't an insult. This country's moral culture back when it existed was largely influenced by the Puritans. That was a good thing. But the point is that we know what's good and we know...
It was good that it was influenced by the Puritans. He's the Puritan. What the fuck are we doing? Oh my god. Somehow I think evangelicals would win, and I would not prefer that. Nor would I, to be honest. Maybe the snake handlers are the one that wins. The Protestant or Pentecostal? Are they? I can't remember.
Know what's bad, and if we want to have a good society instead of this like amoral vacuum of nihilism, then we have...
I mean, he said the Puritans were good. What is it like? Is John Doyle going to be like? Is his ideal past like? I imagined his ideal past was like maybe the 1950s, or maybe it was the 1920s. Like maybe around there was his ideal past. But is his real ideal past like when we had witch burnings in the like 17 to 1800s? Is that his ideal past? He wants to go back to those times when we're burning witches? I mean, he did open this segment about wanting to abuse women, so like maybe that's his goal in the end. Jesus Christ.
Have to actually stand up for good and against bad. This should be self-evident. But we continue. Number 3. Your problem is that you're thinking with emotion, not logic. Policies need to be judged on their results, not their intentions. Again, yes, this is true, but it doesn't really serve a purpose beyond making whoever said it feel smug, because it misunderstands.
I will say, you can't see it, but it does say down behind my head, number 3, smug autism. Because making an autism joke here is really helping his point. I mean, the funny thing is a lot of people who make this, like, rationality argument, I wouldn't even necessarily call them boomers, but, like, they're the IDW type, which is all, like, Sam Harris, Steven Pinker, you know. And it's definitely smug, 100% smug. But referring to it as autistic is a little bit much there. And offensive to autistic people, to be honest.
The reality of human nature, which is that people basically don't have agency and are not robots. Even if I were governed exclusively by facts and logic above all else, there would still have to be something inside of me that created that fixation. Think about it. People are not driven by facts and logic. Even you are not driven by facts and logic. This fixation on abstractions has undermined the importance of the immaterial. We're driven by the fact that we love this country. Look at the passion. Look at the passion.
Like, again, I agreed with them up until that last move. Like, yes, the passions matter. We have feelings. This whole idea that somehow we can be convinced by reasonable discourse and debate, I have railed against that my entire time in doing this channel. And yet he says that, like, somehow we need something that's immaterial. What the fuck is immaterial about having feelings? My feelings are pretty material, and they're a response to material reality. All that is true. But then somehow it's our spirit, our elan vital, or whatever the fuck he's talking about, is motivated by the fact that we love our country? And why? Like, what? That's so stupid.
Of the immaterial. We're driven by the fact that we love this country. Look at the passion. Look at the passion that these protesters and rioters have. Look at the way they scream, the way that they cry and take to the streets. Do you seriously believe that if you sat down with them and proved to them that you were correct on gun control, gun policy, that the very next day they'd be back out there, except this time they'd be channeling that passion in favor of your side? No, they'd probably just say, well, I just have to do more research, and then just stick to what they already believe. Lived experiences, passions, these are the things that compel people. These are the things that compel people to fight, right? Politics isn't about truth. It should be. It's not. It's about people, and people are prideful. They are ego invested into these things. They are largely influenced by their lived experiences. And if you can structure a society that basically breeds mental illness and then simultaneously create victim narratives for people to sympathize with, you could consolidate a decent amount of power pretty quickly, couldn't you?
Like, imagine that. He gives this long spiel about how people are motivated by their emotions. And then he wants to say that, like, if you can, like, manipulate people's mental illnesses, you can get them to do a whole bunch of shit, which I'm guessing is he's pointing, like, to the left as being, like, mentally ill or something like this. Like, that's the comment he's making here. But, like, notice that, like, that happens on all sides in terms of like emotionally manipulating people to get them to do things. Like that happens on all sides of this. I mean, even the ProgRU thing we watched earlier, even what we're watching now, which is largely to like lean on the fears of people to motivate them into doing the things that John Doyle might want them to do, as opposed to what the boomers are doing. I mean, like this is the whole point of this video here, right? Is to emotionally manipulate people. But like, rather than just acknowledging that, like, I emotionally manipulate people one way and they emotionally manipulate people another way, his conclusion is when they do it, it's mental illness. As if to like add some sort of like stink to it for his audience, that like they're mentally ill, so we can just ignore it, rather than get into the discussion of like, yeah, but why are the anti-fascist people that he showed on his screen, why are they marching? And why was it that I was in Detroit? I playing the proverbial John Doyle, right? Why was he in Detroit? And why were these people marching against fascists? And maybe when you have that information, you can decide which one of these positions is worth marching for. And which one of them is kind of shitty, you know? Sorry I missed the window of relevance because I had a phone call. No joke, we just had a very popular right to die with dignity medical bill get delayed from voting because of our Catholic lobby. Yeah, exactly. This is Tim's from Australia. There's a kind of class cohort element to it here because all of our prominent private schools are extremely Catholic. And Tukar says, there's no objective correct answer on most issues, especially gun control. It depends on your preferred outcome, which differs from people. Yep. But Jesus probably would prefer people don't have / use weapons, turn the other cheek and everything. Yeah. Jesus. I mean, he's got the Jesus bobblehead sitting right here too. Like, holy shit. And then the gun on the wall. I mean, like, what he's the funny thing is, like, two cards, you hit on like a really good point, because what he advocates for is violence against his enemies. Like, he's that was the whole point about hitting the woman at the beginning. That was the whole point of like trying to get the police officer to hit the woman at the beginning. That's the whole point of all, and like his whole pushing back against these more like centrist boomers is to say, no, like we need to compel people to fight for the right things. We need to aggressively fight for these things, and he's putting that out there. You know? Which, if you read his fucking Bible, I mean, his thing is you could cherry pick the whole thing, right? Not only did Jesus say that you should turn the other cheek, but he also said things like you should pick up the sword and like go fight for me and shit like this. So, religion is a complicated mess. That being said, why does he not, like, why don't you read those parts of the Bible and not the others, you know? And then what does that say about your objective truth coming from Christianity, right? Or is it, or based on everything you already said, and I kind of agreed with you on, are you bringing your own emotional baggage to the text and reading into it in ways that other people are not, and selecting the few verses that you think appeal to your own position rather than some sort of like truth coming from the biblical text? The implicit threat of violence is always on the table, as he said in his own words, just a neutral statement, not a veiled threat. Yeah. So many alleged Christians absolutely do not know the text. That is also true. That is also true.
There's a reason that these people like break down into tears when you
have
debate
no
with them. And the grand irony is that you laugh at them as if they're the ones who don't get what's going on. No, you don't get what's going on. You don't get how bad things in this country are, where these people are so sick that they can't have a disagreement about politics without literally crying. And you think it's just because you like
even look at the framing. That person crying, it wasn't just a disagreement over politics. Like, granted, I thought it was pretty cringy when that person cried the way they did too. And it got used by all these people in very negative ways. It's just cringy in the basic sense. I mean, no ill will to that person. I'm just saying that, like, you know, without context and the emotion baggage and just a person screaming, crying, and slobbering all over themselves, I can see why a lot of people took that to be very cringy. But that doesn't mean that the pain wasn't real. That the reason why they were crying wasn't a legitimate worry. And given what happened after Trump was elected, which is why this person was crying, yeah, there's good reasons to cry, to be concerned, to be worried, to be frightened. Trump did a lot of shitty things. It motivated a lot of shitty people to promote and try to like promote his like weird MAGA fascism. So it's like, yeah, like it's like weird because I agree. Like the person who like laughs at it and like doesn't get it and misses the point, like all of that, true. But then his point is that somehow these people are mentally ill. But it's like, why were they crying, John? It wasn't just mental illness. It's because you actually wanted to harm them.
You don't get what's going on. You don't get how bad things in this country are, where these people are so sick that they can't have a disagreement about politics without literally
Like to make it about a disagreement about politics. There's just a disagreement about politics. The Muslim ban was not just a disagreement about politics. That hurt real people's lives. The trans bans actually affected real human beings. Like, it's amazing. Like, you can play it off all you want as like, oh, it's just harmless. It's like, it's just disagreement about politics. Well, when your politics hurts other people, of course other people are going to be mad at you. Of course. Of course. Happy birthday, famous source. If you're still streaming, I still plan on rating you, unless you're done. But happy birthday, either way. We still got we're plowing through this video.
literally crying, and you think it's just because you like owned them so hard with facts and logic. No.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing is this is getting. Two Cars makes a good point. Two Cars says lots of hogs cried too. Exactly. So it's like, would Doyle here start reflecting about all the people who like were big sad about Trump losing back in January or November of 2020? Were those outcryings of emotion mental illness, or was it people who were genuinely afraid of what they thought Biden was going to enact, even though like the things they're afraid of are pretty delusional and not real? Which is like the actual question, the actual point that you should be addressing here, Mr. Doyle, is not just pointing at these people and going they're mentally ill. It's like what is the content? What is the content of all this? Good evening, person in chat.
No, you don't get it. And these people are dangerously close to having total power over you. Do you think that they're just going to leave you alone? They're not. And again,
No,
this
'cause
doesn't
you're a
mean that we should be
fascist piece of
thinking with
shit.
emotions and ignore facts. This is just to say that we have to be honest with our situation. And if we want to win, we have to simultaneously figure out how to cure widespread societal nihilism while configuring our policies, or reconfiguring them, I should say, to appeal to people's emotions and experiences instead of, frankly, their pride. Like, hey, smart people only talk about facts and logic. So if you want to be a smart person like me, only talk about facts and logic. That's not how you take a country back. That's how you make a substantial personal fortune, by declaring that there are only two genders, basically. But we continue. Number 4, this is...
I don't fully get the last point he made there, but I generally agree with the sort of psychological position he's adopting. No emotions on January 6th. I mean, he's arguing that it was emotion. Like, he probably would say that's emotion and it's good because of the right kind of emotions, which is my position. It's like, yes, I don't know. Being angry at injustice is a good emotion. And he would probably agree with that. The difference is we're going to disagree on what is justified and what isn't justified. And that's important, in part because what he thinks is justified is a lot of fashy shit that I do not agree with.
Too far. We need to go back to insert previous stage of liberalism that was predicted to lead to this. And this is always the case. Third wave feminism is too far, but I like original feminism. Critical race theory is too far, but I like Martin Luther King Jr. He wouldn't have supported this. Really?
This is restarting the game that can't be won. This is also interesting because I'm going to agree with him, but for wrong reasons.
AstroTurf communist activist Martin Luther King Jr., who wrote in his journals about things exactly like critical race theory, he wouldn't have supported it? Really? Then
I mean, AstroTurf? And, well, like, he dabbled in some Marxism. I'm not going to, like, poo-poo that. I don't know that I would call him a communist. I don't know. Does the chat agree? Is he communist or not? I think he was referring to how lucrative it is for people like Ben Shapiro. I think that's true too, Tim. I just want to shove this guy. That's the thing, is like bullying is okay. We like, it just depends on why you're bullying, right? I'd say he was a socialist. Yeah. I just like, yeah. Whether or not Martin Luther King fully decided stop them. Well, yeah. I'm just like, even like how he self-identified, like, yeah, anyways. Point being, a lot of that is bullshit. But like I do see the larger point, which is that a lot of people want to what is it? They want to shape Martin Luther King's image to fit their positions. Right? And so there's a nugget of appreciation here that John Doyle is going, no, we shouldn't shape these people to fit our positions. And then he goes on to shape Martin Luther King into his like Red Scare like astroturf conspiracy theory bullshit. So he is then like saying, don't try to like whitewash them into use them for your centricity shit. Whitewash them so that we can use them as fascist propaganda to be like, scary black person who was also a communist. MLK Jr. was a what? All right. Everyone wants to claim MLK Jr. just like every Marxist wants to claim Rosa Luxemburg. Yeah, exactly.
Why do all the veterans of the civil rights movement who marched alongside him, why do they support it? That's a red pill most conservatives are not ready for, the MLK pill. Oh, but John, MLK advocated for peaceful demonstrations. Oh, like peaceful protests? Who told you that? Your public school history teacher? Just like Antifa is just an idea, right? Just like 93% of Black Lives Matter protests 2 summers ago were peaceful, right? Do you understand that almost everything you were ever taught about history is a lie? They're writing the history books because they won. And as
like, again, the whole like it gets so frustrating here because like 100% calling them peaceful protests, in my opinion, was not the best kind of marketing. We need to promote the idea that like, I mean, they were marching in the streets saying no justice, no peace. Okay? Those were the chants being yelled. You can't then say no justice, no peace, and then say these were just all peaceful protests. They were purposefully to disrupt things. They were anti-peace in the sense of causing a disruption in order to make things better. Right? But of course, again, it's at the superficial level of like whether or not this was like peaceful or not, and not about like the actual like moral extent of this, right? We're like, that's the more interesting thing. Like, what, like, were the protests good? Were they for a correct cause? Again, that gets ignored. It's just assumed. It's assumed that this is wrong. And the thing that worries me is like you could tell like he's trying to do this to adopt the position of like they need to be the aggressors. They need to be not peaceful. They need to like attack, right? And it's like, no, fascists shouldn't. We're like, that's the thing is like, they should be stopped. He should be off YouTube. You know? And it is about power. I want leftist voices that call for disruption to be platformed. I do not want right-wing voices to cause for disruption to be platformed. That's just me.
And that almost everything you were ever taught about history is a lie. They're writing the history books because they won. And as they keep winning and writing history books, your kids are going to be taught.
I mean, he... I mean, like, there's a part that I want to say that he's right here, which is like when they wrote the history books to say that Martin Luther King was only about peaceful protests, the people who won in that instance were liberals that want to whitewash Martin Luther King and use him for their purposes. So 100%, it was written by liberals, but not leftists. He's wanting to say that it's leftists that are rewriting the history books. They're not, sadly. Person had a swastika PFP, damn. Oh, the person that we just banned? Yeah, no, that I noticed by their comments, it did not look great. So thank you,
Taught that Antifa and Black Lives Matter are just ideas that are peaceful. And my sons, all 7 of them, are going to have to red pill your kids. And then you're going to witness history repeating itself because people online in the 2050s will be writing, the mass execution of conservatives is not what Black Lives Matter was about. As a George Floyd conservative... That's like literally what's going to happen. George Floyd conservatism. And I'll say this about boomers, because it's a double-edged sword since they can't accept that things have changed. So like on the one hand, they're like, no, we just need small government and Ronald Reagan and the Cold War still happening, et cetera, et cetera. But on the other hand, you can never get them to buy into something like gender theory. Like I don't buy it either, but I understand what they're saying, right? Like the philosophical question of what defines manhood, womanhood, do they intersect? Like I get what they're saying, but boomers just go, No, it's male and female, basic biology, and I love that about them.
That a little bit perplexes me a little bit. It's like if you can acknowledge that there's nuance here and there's something to be discussed and you can understand what people are saying, why would you love people that are just so blunt about their ignorance? I don't know. I mean, it feels like he's trying to appeal to them emotionally to make them his friends. I don't know. He's like 30 and just grew a beard. I think he's younger than 30. He's Gen Z. He's Gen Z, so he can't be 30, right? Am I doing the math right? Oh, some priest. Yeah, the smugness, yeah.
We're going to miss that a lot. If you think that this country is going down with boomers holding power, just wait until millennials start replacing them in the next 10 years. Then we're really going to be screwed, blued, and tattooed. But I bring that up because...
What, like... So they're using a can opener on a paint can, and the paint can requires a thing to pop it open, and then what is this supposed to prove? Millennial doesn't know how to use can opener. It doesn't know what a paint can is. Got him. Great. I've never seen a blue-haired tattoos millennial in real life. Oh, I have. I know plenty. I mean, we don't even know what this person's political disposition is. They just can't open a paint can, okay? What if this is the lone Gen Z or millennial, I don't even know what they are, that has never painted, okay? See that woman not able to open a can? Big study control group. Oh my god.
Because I was talking about something related to this with my mom the other day, and she goes, well, what do you think about Martin Luther King Jr.? And I go, you think I like Martin Luther King? And she goes, well, I don't know. You know, my brother never liked him. And I was like, let's flipping go. Based Uncle Rob, the Maverick strikes again. But here's the point. We don't like feminism.
I love this open Martin Luther King is evil. Wonderful.
Because it is the complete inversion of reality. It is built upon the idea that man and woman are equal. Not that they should be treated with equal dignity, but like literally that they are equal. That is untrue. That is unnatural. And it's actually satanic, which could be why less than 100 years later, child sacrifice is completely normalized in our culture. But when you accept that idea, then anything else is totally fair game because you will have established the slope. And it's a slippery one.
Yeah, let's get this right. We started with genders are equal. Genders are equal led to abortion, and it's satanic. And this is the slippery slope that's going to go to what now? And I love like using slippery slope here. He's out. He's like, it's the slippery slope. Didn't you know it's the slippery slope? I am going to. In the moment, like, I get it. He just went on a tirade about how, like, we're going to ignore facts and logic. It's all about emotion. And I largely agree with him. But it is a little, silly describing what's going on as a slippery slope when a slippery slope tends to be a logical fallacy. Now, it's one thing if... the thing about the slippery slope fallacy is it's an informal fallacy in which, like, not all slippery slopes are, like, false, right? Things can lead to one another and eventually go to something worse. But, like, you need a lot of evidence to support that. And what we got here was genders are equal, it led to abortion, therefore Satanism. Could go further? Like, I don't know. Jesus Christ. That's discriminatory against Satanism. I agree that gen descriptors are stupid. I said that at the beginning of the thing, too, that generational psychology is really, really not great. I just looked it up. If he's over 25, he's a young millennial. If he's under 25, he's an older Zoomer. Is he suggesting he's under 25 when he says he's Gen Z, or is he just getting it wrong? I don't know. Doyle is my age, I think. It's mostly for marketing. No, I agree. I'm a huge proponent. Opponent? A huge opponent of generational psychology. I find a lot of the evidence for it is wishy-washy, or at least some of the theorizing around it is wishy-washy at best. But I'm here, I don't have wine. Well, you better get your wine. We got like 8 minutes left to go. Or 7 minutes.
As you can clearly see by this point, or even MLK, same thing. The principles enshrined by the civil rights movement were expected to have consequences, and exactly what was predicted has come true. What happens when you legally enshrine equality, not just between men and women, but everyone? And then when that equality doesn't happen, because not everyone's equal, you get things like critical race theory.
Oh my god! I want to say, like, they didn't. When did we magically make everything equal? When did that magically happen? When did we make things equal? Like, I think there's certain aspect in which the law has been made such that it's like kind of supposed to be legally equal or equal under the law, even though like part of the reason why you have CRT is to say that even though the laws are color blindly like neutral, they still have racial effects, right? Like that was the whole point of the CRT sort of like phenomenon, is to be like, even though we perceive that we've done all this like work to make things equal, the problem is that we still have like judicial discretion or other things that continue to perpetuate racist systems, right? Let's not get bogged down in the details. Oh my god. Oh, yep. How's it going, Rick? Eric, I should say. The actual consequences of the civil rights movement was the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the right-wing attack on civil rights activists. You can't say it failed while ignoring the violence directed at the movement. Well, I'm not like, I mean, he's saying that it failed because like we tried equality and then it failed, but it's like, I don't know. This whole thing's fucking stupid. To him, removing explicitly racist laws is solving racism, and that brings it you is racism in and of itself. Bringing it up is racism in and of itself. Isn't equality the whole point of the U.S. in principle? It's complicated. I'm sure that like a lot, like again, we've already been over this Rye 87 before. I think you hopped into the chat, which was that we hold these truths to be self-evident to all people created equal or whatever really didn't apply to the fact that they had slaves and shit, right? So even though they had this idea in their head that we're doing this for equality, it didn't always work out to equality. And then even now, like with this like notion that somehow these laws are like racially neutral, they have racialized effects, right? So I guess like maybe if you want to talk about in principle, they tried, but they completely fucking failed. But even then, it's hard to like what does all that like mean and shit, and like I don't know. I think there's a lot of nuance there that a lot of people like when you start talking about in principle, it kind of like abstracts it out to a point when it's like kind of meaningless. The question is whether or not we have reasonable equality, and I think that's something to assess, regardless of what in principle they tried or try not to do.
Affirmative action, all of it, it's unavoidable. So it's not enough to say, well, we just need to get back to earlier stages of liberal ideas because those ideas are what led to this in the first place. And the reason people even think that in the first place is because of the liberal conditioning that they've been experiencing for their entire lives. Well, you know what, John? Maybe I am a liberal. Well, then maybe you're the problem. Yeah, I already knew that. I already knew that you're not conservative. That's why we're here in the first place. Anyways, last one. This one's actually my least favorite. Oh, just you wait and see. Just red wave imminent. It's like this eternal fixation on being as smug as possible. I just don't get it. I feel like I'm chaperoning children when I listen to these takes. If Joe Biden does a vaccine mandate, it'll actually be racist against black people since they're the least likely to get vaccinated. Joe Biden let all these people from Latin America come into the country, but then when some Haitian people came in, he started sending them back. So in other words, it was only when black people started showing up that he had a problem with it. Do you think you're cute? Like, do you think that this is clever?
I don't even get what he's doing here. Like, here's the thing is, the smugness makes sense, right? I feel what he's talking about. I understand the smugness of right-wingers. I get it. Right-wing boomers, smug? Yeah, no, 100%. We've all been there. We've all heard the vaccine denialists that come out, like, really hardcore, like, yeah, smug pieces of shit. I get it. I sympathize. But the examples he gives are just really fucking confusing. Why? I don't even know if I've heard people making those examples up. Yeah, I know. I just like, I guess like there's an element of which like the Fox News that try to do gotchas to liberals by trying to be like, well, you think X and yet Y is happening, and when we did Y, you got mad at us, but Y is happening now, so like I get that, but like his examples are just fucking convoluted and weird. Living in his own world.
Oh, I'm going to operate within the left's moral framework and then pretend that I'm winning because this time I get to call them the racist. You're actually a child. Like, I'm sorry, but this is
like, I mean, what he's getting at is like a hypocrisy gotcha, when it's like you don't even believe, like you don't agree with any of it anyway, so why are you doing the hypocrisy gotcha? Like I can sympathize with that, and I can sympathize why that's like smug and annoying, but like I don't understand like why he's getting so irate about it. Get it? Oh.
true. Like, this is so sophomoric. Like, what a real conservative you are when the best argument that you can think of against vaccine mandates is that it would be unfair to black people. The biggest one, though, this idea of the silent majority. Just you wait and see. When Carter was in office, we had inflation. We had gas prices through the roof. And then people got mad, and then Reagan came and swept the country, and it was a landslide. Oh, just you wait. The same thing's happening now with Biden. Just you wait. Trump's going to come back, and history's going to repeat itself. Really? The country that has become about 50% less trusting of its own people and about 25% less white since 1980, that's the...
I mean, the white part about it here, but other than that, like, I completely agree with what he's saying in terms of this whole, like, silent majority bullshit really annoys me. Hardcore annoys me. All the right-wingers, I mean, Ezra does this all the fucking time, is just like, you watch everyone out there, they're just quiet, they're not raising up, but they will soon, and they're the silent majority, and we're going to take it over. Yes, complete and utter horseshit for the reasons why he brought it up, which is that we're way more divided in this day and age than we were back then. It's not as easy, like, to just somehow all the people who were... I mean, just look at the recent Canadian election results that were, like, basically the same results as the year before, right? Like, we live in polarized times where people are pretty, like, set in their position. That's how it is. But then, like, to be, like, the white majority stuff, like, that just is really stupid. For one, like, there's tons of evidence to show that that's not the case. I mean, like, a lot of, like, currently residing, or like, black people tend not to vote Republican, and I wonder why. Okay? It has nothing to do with new immigrants, which is often what the white majority fear is coming from, for people entering the country. They tend to vote conservatives, especially the newer immigrants. So, it is what it is. And often, like, to go into a little bit of detail there, it's often because, like, they want to fit in and feel like they don't want to, like, be perceived as the kind of immigrant stereotype that they're making them out to be.
The country that's going to have a Republican landslide in a federal election. White people are the only demographic that by majority vote for Republicans. We've been winning federal elections by smaller margins every cycle because of immigration, because of demographic change. Everybody knows this. The left celebrates this. This is not at all controversial. Are you going to change their minds with what institutional...
I want to see what tweet was the left celebrating that. Oh, I went back too far here.
Because of demographic change. Everybody knows this. The left celebrates this.
The left, it's a Jennifer, is that Jennifer Rubin? The Republican who writes for is it the Washington Post or Washington Times, or I can't remember what newspaper. Washington Post. She's an op-ed writer for the Washington Post. She was an ex-Republican who was a never-Trumper. Like, she's still a conservative. A more diverse, more inclusive society. This is fabulous news. Now we need to prevent minority white rule. This is a conservative. This is the left to him. Jennifer Rubin. Holy shit. What a fantastic thing to say.
This is not at all controversial. Are you going to change their minds with what institutional power? Do you think that this country is unified enough to have an election be a landslide, let alone it be a Republican. No, that country's long gone. And frankly, it's because the boomers, even more frankly, the greatest generation, they didn't defend it competently. They just don't get it. They and their parents grew up in the most prosperous generation in human history. You lived in leisure and you let this happen, perhaps understandably after having come out of World War II, which we shouldn't have even been involved in the first place anyways.
What's with the memorabilia on the fucking wall then? What's with the helmet? What's with the gun? Well, we know progressive. we probably know where he stands on that one, my friend. He was just saying he was watching a Nick Fuentes stream when we started this video. Sure, all his ideas are terrible, but he's doing his best. Look how fast he's talking. Oh, I know, Jesus Christ. He is a fast talker. But you don't find many people who disagree with getting involved in World War II. Like, even most leftists I come across where are like, you know, the one war. The one war where I can be like, that was all right. That was kind of justified. Mostly World War II. And here we have this fucking dude being like, World War II? No, bad idea. Shouldn't have been involved in it. Laugh my ass off. World War II is like the only war where you have to be like, yeah, I got it. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's at least meant to evoke World War II era weaponry, even the GI on his laptop. LOL. I even think like Bertrand Russell, didn't he support or at least not protest World War II? I know he protested and got jailed for World War I. But like I think even he was like, you know what? Maybe the Nazis are bad. The German-American Bund were too moderate. Doyle in the 40s. Jesus Christ. Probably. Again, what ideal past does he want to go back to? I still, you know, please, Doyle, inform your audience.
Frankly, that's another red pill that people aren't ready for. The World War II dissertation imminent, perhaps, but in summary...
Okay, I will have to say, if he does this video, we have to watch it. I have to hear his dissertation on why World War II was not a good war to get involved in. I am kind of curious. I doubt he's going to do it, but, you know, sure.
We are living through the direct result of a decadent mindset. You cannot expect to be apathetic, to be amoral, and just for everything to sustain itself. Do we now understand the results of this little sit back and do nothing experiment? Those types of people are not
sit back and do nothing. Notice, like, he's never advocated for violence within this video, right? He's never explicitly stated. In other videos, he has said things like he wants to put communists in the ground in Minecraft or however he fucking covered up in that video. But, like, in this one, like, but he's saying we need to do more than just, like, sing songs and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. So what is this more, right? He's advocating for fascist violence without explicitly stating he wants fascist violence.
not going to be in control anymore, and they don't deserve to be. We are going to take this country back, and we are going to do so by putting people with spines into power, as opposed to putting people without spines into power who pretend that their cowardice or indifference is some sort of virtue.
And notice, like, we started this video with him protesting the election results in Detroit. So his idea is like having someone with spine in power is to basically make the election go the way that he wants it to go by stealing shit and having that spine to go all the way and steal it all the way. And hello, Hildebeest. We are about to end this video. I will say this is going to be slightly awkward and cringy, but we are going to get a quasi Blink-182 cover here with additional lyrics added on. You're welcome. I don't know what to say. Here we go.
This is a song about the leader of our movement who 30 years ago today went to go buy something from the store. The nanny state said that he was using counterfeit currency. But when you think about it, fiat currency is just as valuable as fake currency. And the police didn't like that. so they killed him. Because he was an Austrian economics guy, just like us. His name was George Floyd.
Okay. There... World War II was questionable. Anyway, here's Wonderwall. Oh my god. Oh, dear Lord. Dear Lord. What the fuck, actually? I know, when this first happened, like, my brain imploded. So he made a joke earlier in the stream, for those who joined us recently, about George Floyd Republicans or conservatives. This is the joke of this song now. So he's trying to say that conservatives in the future are going to be like pro George Floyd and turn him into a conservative. Okay? Now you're going to find out this is a Blink-182 song. He is going to get to it. But the weird like narrative he's spinning is, the funny thing is, like, he's making fun of these kind of libertarians with like the fiat currency and all this shit in the song, saying that these people are going to support George Floyd. And it's weird to me, but these people already support George Floyd. Like, there was a bunch of like libertarian conservatives, even like the Boogaloo Boys were in support of, or at least antagonistic towards the police. Like, they're not leftists. They wanted some of them are fucking racist as hell, but they still didn't like the idea of the state enacting violence on George Floyd, right? So it's just weird that like those people already exist. It's not going to be some like future endpoint where these people exist and start doing some of this stuff. I mean, there's some of the co-opting in the same way like Martin Luther King, maybe, but like just weird. But it's also weird that this tells me that John Doyle is into punk rock music. And I will say, we're not going to watch it. There's his next video in the timeline, I guess. He does an Offspring cover. So the fact that like John Doyle, Gen Z, like just sits around listening to like 90s punk is weird to me. Weird to me. But here we go. I should say 90s pop punk. Let's be real. The Offspring and Blink-182, not quite like punk politically. So I can see why a fascist might not be too worried about their lyrics, you know. The far right in America has hated cops for a while. Just look at Alex Jones. No, exactly. I mean, but Alex Jones is now... I mean, even Ezra is constantly on that fence of like pro-cop, anti-cop shit. And it's always like when the cops support them, good for cops. When the cops are not supporting them, anti-cop, you know. All the small dicks say it ain't so. I will not go. wrong Blink-182 song, but here we go.
And today, we commemorate the loss of the face of modern conservatism, George Floyd. Where are you?
Oh my god, it's so bad.
And I'm so sorry. I cannot sleep, cannot dream tonight.
I mean, if you're gonna do Blink-182, you have to get Tom DeLonge's inflection. Like, where are you? No, I'm so sorry. Not whatever the hell this is.
And I'm so sorry. I cannot sleep, cannot dream tonight. I need somebody and always.
Any bands you probably haven't heard of them.
Fentanyl's toxic, like surprisingly toxic. It's a problem. And
he has to fit in lyrics to deny that George Floyd actually died from the police killing him, which kind of ruins the bit. You know, if the bit is supposed to be conservatives reappropriating George Floyd, you then wouldn't write lyrics saying that he didn't actually die from the police, but he died from a fentanyl overdose. Probably doesn't work with the bit, you know. But I guess like lack of consistency throughout his video, lack of consistency in his attempt at musical comedy. Like, is he trying to capture the Bo Burnham demographic fascist now? I don't know what's happening here.
As I stared, I counted the black people on the sidewalk recording me so I could go viral. Like, when we had St. Martin and before him Trayvon,
that fourth chord is
come
wrong
home
and it hurts.
and Rob my pregnant girlfriend. Rob my pregnant girlfriend.
Oh my god. I mean, there's a wrong chord in there too.
Miss you, I miss you.
No, like it goes higher there. Like
Don't waste your time on me. You're already the voice inside my head. George Floyd, don't waste your time on me. You're already the voice inside my head. George Floyd, we miss you because it's the 2050s and we're George Floyd conservatives.
so, like, I get this is supposed to be the ironic, edgy humor shit. You know, this is what is attempting, and it's amazing for them to criticize everyone else for their cringe. But like, I don't know, does this work as ironic humor? This is just also cringe, right? I feel like I just lost time. Oh my god. I don't want to live on this planet anymore. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry. This is deep cringe. It is a very deep cringe. Yes, Simone, everyone hears you. Everyone hears you. Go learn Blink 182 so you can join John Doyle in a duet, all right? All right.
This is a song called Subscribe to the Channel. This is the campfire when we have the compound. We do a little subscribing to the channel, turning on post notifications, sharing the video with a friend, leaving a like, and also leaving a comment. If you want that was so esoteric. This is actually the most esoteric outro in the history of the channel. For the 3-year anniversary almost, we just have to get more esoteric with the 2-minute outros. You have to know the case. Should I ruin it? I'll ruin it because that makes it more esoteric. Because sometimes I don't ruin it, so we have to add an additional layer of esotericism. So you have to know the case details. Well, first of all, you have to be familiar with the concept of the 2-minute outro. Then you have to be familiar with the case details of the George Floyd thing. Then you have to be familiar with that song by Blink 182.
It wasn't that
then you have to be familiar with Tom DeLonge leaving Blink, going on a tour with Angels and Airwaves in the summer and fall of 2019, doing a medley where he played a bunch of songs, starting with the I Miss You acoustic version. There's just so many things.
Like, whoa.
That you just...
Apparently I broke my YouTube.
I'm making this video anyways, so I figured that it would be better to put a couple videos out this week, which can kind of lay some of the foundation for what's going to be explored next week. And so today, we are going to go over...
I mean, you didn't need to know about Tom DeLonge's trip into Angel Airwaves and then did an acoustic rendition of the song in order for us to get that bit. You could have just said you learned to play it acoustically yourself. Does he think he's being highbrow comedian by trying to deconstruct a bit? Like it felt like a Bo Burnham bit, didn't it? For anyone who's watched the recent Bo Burnham thing, it's like he was like, I want to watch that, but like somehow make it into like fascist Bo Burnham by like being ironic about the performance that I just did. Yeah, it was still racist acoustic or not? No, exactly. He can't reference anything without bragging about it, so his audience knows he's smart and knows things. That's right. I will. How many of you want to have your like earballs totally destroyed by listening to his Offspring cover? Do we want to try it? Do we want to do the Offspring cover too? We don't have to watch the whole video. I want to know if you want to listen to some Offspring. No? Okay, we're doing it. I think, wait, how many votes? We got 1 down, we got 1 oh no, we got 1 hell yeah. I get I don't know if the oh no counts, but then someone said no, someone said fuck no. We got neck bass Rick is like going all in here. Damn, I stepped out half an hour and you're still watching John Doyle. Well, yeah, we've moved on to now John Doyle covering punk rock songs from the 90s. This is from his cover band, I Only Want My Offspring. Okay. We're doing it. I don't care. This is my stream. I'm taking over. We're doing it. Here we go.
Is dead. Buy my merch, cause dead. He led our movement. He supported conservatism, but then he couldn't conserve his body with the fentanyl and methamphetamine.
Oh, God.
How do you play it?
He's learning on the fucking
How do you play it? Is it?
Oh my God.
I'm really getting a kick out of this, and I don't really care if you guys aren't, because
Look,
you look now, you know, punk rock used to be anti-establishment.
You know what? It's so bad. It's so bad. Oh. Yeah, strangely enough, his mangling it makes it less cringe overall. Oh, God. Now he needs to explain that one too. Yeah, I know. Let's listen to the explanation. There we go.
Because you look now, you know, punk rock used to be anti-establishment. Now you look, all of these bands, I think even The Offspring, they fired their drummer for being like anti-lockdown or something. And it's like all these bands are now coming out and they're totally submissive to the system. And it's just so antithetical to everything that genre of music is supposed to be about. And explaining the joke is funny to me because it makes the joke not funny. So I get, it's privatized benefits and socialized losses. It's just like the Federal Reserve. I get all the benefits because I laugh. You guys have to pay the price. But playing old like popular punk songs, or pop punk songs, I should say, so people don't get mad, and then just like doubling down and just full on, they've all been re-recorded to support George Floyd, who really is the most like emblematic symbol of the United States of America at this point. They're literally erecting statues in his honor. You know, at least the golden calf was aesthetically appealing. That's just, it's very funny to me. Just, chances blown, chances blown, blown. It's dead. Buy my merch, cause it's dead. Did you hear that it's dead? Buy my merch.
So they're blanking out like shit? That shithole's, this shithead's dead? Like what? I think it's shit that he's blanking out there. But holy shit. Holy shit. I mean, a lot of pop punk was not political. It was apolitical. So it's, and a lot of them were conservative. Like, I don't, or at least liberals that didn't give a shit. Like, what was so anti-establishment? Like, Blink-182 sold millions of records making dick jokes. Like, what was so, like, edgy and, like, anti-establishment about that? They went multiple platinum because they went naked and said, like, they were gonna, like, prank call their moms and make sodomy jokes. So edgy. So edgy and real. They are bleeping. My ears are bleeding. They're bleeping George Floyd. I thought he said George Floyd. Yeah, I mean, it could be the N-word. I like, who knows what the fuck they're bleeping? Who knows? I think you might be right though with the N-word. That would make a lot of sense. Guitar cover of Song for Next Diet Pepsi ad. Jesus Christ. I haven't played my guitar in years. I definitely would not, but I would not get in front of my stream and be like, hold on while I try to hit notes here and then find the right. Chances are. Oh my God. They were anti-establishment, if by establishment you mean mom and dad.
Hello, my rebels. Hello, my rebels. I'm a good boy. I'm a weirdo.